All right, welcome to another one of my ArcGIS Pro videos. I'm looking forward to showing you this. And for those of you who are my students, as at the moment, this is to help you again with your assignment. So if you are in ArcGIS Pro, the first thing I want you to do is to sign in. Now, the one thing I'm not going to do in this video is introduce the software, but I'm going to walk you through very simply how to get everything set up. So here is with the new project, I want you to click on map, and then I want you to set the location. Do not work on the OneDrive when you're working with ArcGIS Pro. The reason you don't want to work on the OneDrive is that it'll work okay for a little while, and then you'll be doing something and then suddenly nothing will work. And then you'll get really frustrated because you can't figure out why it's not working. And it's because it's on the OneDrive, and that's the only reason. So make sure that you have it on some sort of hard drive or like an external hard drive, but not on the OneDrive. So I'm just going to find where I have created my folder. And then once you have a folder, you could create a new folder by going new item and folder. In this, you're going to see that this is your new project location. So make sure that you just go into that folder. Do not change the name, because if you change the name, you're going to end up with it giving you an error, because all I'm trying to do is find the folder that I want to save this in, not actually naming it. So I press OK, and it comes back to this screen, and this is when you can actually create a new project. So this is, then you can name the project, so editing, demo, whatever it is that you are trying to do. Maybe it's your assignment name, or maybe it's your project number, however it needs to be set up. Then press OK, and it is going to load into the software. Now just give it a minute. I always joke about teaching progress bars, because if I didn't teach progress bars, I would be teaching nothing. so there's a couple things that you can do. So and again, I'm doing this as a general video that's going out to the whole world here. And so I want to do this and show enough information to be able to follow along. One of a good technique to do, especially if you're in GIS, is to set up your coordinate system under map here. So I'm just going to right click on map and go to properties. Under properties, I can find coordinate systems. And in this case, I'm going to use 3TM as my search term, because I'm going to use that particular projection. And then I can expand it all out until I find what I need, which is my NAD 83 CSRS 3TM 114. So that's for my class. If you are not in my class, in your general, wherever you are in the world, whatever your coordinate system is, it's what you're going to set. I press OK, and it comes up. Now, when you are starting a project, you may have this geoprocessing tab that shows up. I want you to go to the catalog, and so it might be the tab under here. If you can't find it, click on View and click on Catalog pane. We're going to expand out the databases, and then we're going to expand out the actual GDB. You should see that there's nothing in there. Now, if I had given you data, then you would have data in there, like if I gave you a geodatabase. But this is how you should generally set up things. You might want to set up a catalog, or set up, sorry, your geodatabase based on what your company's doing. You might want to set it up based on what data you already have, and it could be set up based on a future looking thing, like I am going to design this database so that I can keep it organized. You always want to keep it organized. So here I'm going to use my geodatabase. I'm going to right click, I'm going to say new, and I'm going to create a featured data set. This is like a subdirectory that I can work with, that I'm keeping like items together. So perhaps here, maybe I am going to have my natural areas, and I'm going to use no spaces in that name. And then I click down and I'm going to say current map. So the current map shows up here. If you haven't set it up before and you haven't set it up over here, you can click this little globe, and the globe, you can search for what you want to and then find your coordinate system. Once you've set the coordinate system, once you set the data set name, you're going to click run. There's nothing else to do with that. And then you can easily just go back and you can do this again. So maybe I'm going to have man-made and I'm going to call this man-made transportation. So I have that, and then that's going to be the same coordinate system. It's going to fall in the same geodatabase. When I click away from the data set name, you're going to see that little warning sign go away, and I can click run. And then maybe I want something else. I want to be more particular or something different. Maybe this is infrastructure. And then run. So notice that I don't use any spaces. If you end up with this going red, then double check that you don't have any white space afterwards or in the middle by highlighting that line. So once you have that all done, you can click the little X button at the top and you'll see them all created here. Now in these data sets, you're going to create feature classes. So I'm going to right click on my feature data set. I'm going to say new feature class. In here, now you're going to have this pop up. It will either show up here or it will show up pinned on the side. So it can be in two different places, but it's exactly the same thing. So maybe in my natural areas, maybe I have trees and that is going to be a point. Then I click next and then I can add my fields here. So maybe I have a tree type and I know that that is going to be text. So I'm going to leave that as text. I press enter and then I click next and I just want to make sure that this is the right coordinate system and we're good. I'm just going to click finish. The other stuff is not going to be applicable to this particular simple editing map. So it takes a minute. I'll just let it go. If I didn't teach progress bars, I'd teach nothing. Then maybe in my transportation, I want to include a feature class. So I right click, go to new feature class, and maybe I have roads in this case. And actually, yeah, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change it to pathways. And then I'm going to change that to line and then go next. And then in my new field, I might say material. And that's also going to be text. Let's enter, click next, just to check to make sure it's the right coordinate system, and I click finish. And then for the next one, it's the same thing. So I'm just kind of doing three of them. Now I want to emphasize that you don't need to have the same type of feature class in each of the data sets. You can have multiple kinds of data in each of the data sets. I'm just trying to fill this in just so you can see what it looks like. So for example, this one might be buildings. That is going to be a polygon. Maybe this one has a name and that's going to be text. And then I can say next because I want to check the coordinate system and then finish. So this allows me to set them up. Now another example, I want to be able to add something that has another component to it. So I'm going to just add another one. Actually, cancel, that is infrastructure. So I'm going to right click, go new feature class. Maybe this is benches. Benches are going to be points. I'm going to click next. And this one is capacity. And that is going to be a short integer because I can't fit many people onto a bench, right? So I hit next and finish. And then I'm just going to use those as my examples for today. So in here, these are my feature classes. Now, one of the things that I can do is go to my data dictionary for those of you who are experienced with this. My first years that I'm working with and just teaching this very, very simple mapping. We're just going to create domains based on the stuff that you did before. So you don't have, so my students, you don't have to create domains. Even actually, if you're listening to me from elsewhere in the world, you don't have to unless your boss tells you, of course, but this is going to limit any error. So limiting human error is always really a good thing. So we're going to try to do that. So we right click on the database because that's related specifically to the database. If you watched my previous video on looking at setting up the field maps in the online world, the domains are specific to the feature class, but in ArcGIS Pro, it's actually specific to the entire geodatabase. So I'm going to select domains. Now I can come up with domain names. So if you have you have your dictionary that's all ready to go, then you can use it just to be able to set up your domains all in one here. If you have no idea what a data dictionary is, that is okay. It is just really that we're trying to limit our options to select in attributes. So for example, I have trees, and I know I set up a tree type as one of the attributes. So I can go here into my domain name by double clicking, and then I can say tree types. So the description, I can put whatever I need to so that I understand what is going on. So I can say this is identifying between the types, the tree species, if you want to call it that. If I'm probably saying this wrong, so if anyone is a forester or in biology, I apologize that I'm mutilating the word species for this. So I'm not going to use Latin. And I'm going to press enter, and so that's saved. But now I really want to make sure that I'm going to put in my options. So I highlight this line. I'm going to double check that it's text, and I want to double check that coded value is also text. So I'm going to make this bigger. And now in my code, I'm going to call it deciduous. I know that that is not a species, but so please forgive me for those that are out there going cringing while I'm saying this. And so this is, I'm just going to say flat leaf because just to keep it really simple. And then I press enter, and then I can put coniferous, and then this is spiky leaves. I'll just keep it the same there. So I don't want that one, so we're good there. So I've got deciduous coniferous. Notice that this is green and this is green. We're good. So I can hit save at the top, and that's going to save that domain for me. Now the next one, if I go to benches, this one is also a point, but I had capacity for that. So maybe I can just say capacity. And so I can use capacity across all of these. So if I wanted to say, what's my building capacity? I could put that in there as well. So maybe what I'm going to say here, because I want to keep it limited to a small number so that nobody can make an error from that. I'm going to say this value only goes up to 6. So then I have that description so I know exactly what's going on. Then my field type is not a text because it's a number. I'm going to change it to a short integer because remember we did that with the benches over here. So then my coded value actually changes to a range domain. And that's to say that I'm going to have values going from whatever to my maximum. So in this case, I'm going to say there's a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 6. And so that just limits my range from 1 to 6. That means that when I go to enter it, it must be values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Then if I look here, buildings, I'm just looking at a building name. So that is user entered. So I'm not going to enter that as a domain because I can't limit it. Otherwise, I'm still typing out everything anyways. So then for the next one was pathways. So I could have materials, and these are construction materials. And this is going to be coded and it's going to be text again because again I'm using words. So maybe this one is concrete. Then maybe my second one is asphalt. And then maybe it is gravel. Oh, double click, gravel. You can make as many of these as you need, right? So I can just keep pressing enter and it'll just keep creating more. But you can see that they're green. The nice thing is that it does indicate, hey, this is good, you're doing well. If it's just showing like that, it tells me it hasn't been saved yet. So it's been created, but it hasn't been saved. Another indication is this little star here. That tells me it hasn't been saved. So I go up to the top, I click save, and you can see the little green goes away. If it is red, there's a couple things that you've probably missed. First things first, you probably missed the description. If you're missing a description after the code, then you probably have it's probably red. If you have the wrong kind of field type and these are different, like they're wrong, then you will also get an error with that. So make sure that your field type and your actual values over here match, that they actually get along. Okay, so once you've done the domains and you've hit save and it's grayed out, I can close that. And then now I can start creating objects. So if I zoom in, I maybe just try to figure out some sort of park close by here. Maybe I'm going to go to Airdrie here. They have a nice big park. It's in this area. Okay, so let's just say this is the park area that I'm going to be creating um, my database here and creating all my feature classes from. Now this is really hard to use because like it's digitized. You can see that there's all these different buildings and everything else that's in here, and there's pathways and there's like creeks and stuff like that. So maybe I want to, so you can use that as a base if you want, or you can go to the base map up here, which is under map and then base map, and click on imagery. So now with the imagery, I can now see the park in real color. So in my class, what I'm doing in my class, I am going to digitize based on this image, this aerial image. For those of you who are out there in the world, you can digitize based on anything that you have. So of course, if you have other vector data that you've brought in, you can digitize off that. If you are bringing in like a raster of any sort, you can digitize that. So I'm just using the ArcGIS base for this. Just again, it's meant for a simple exercise and an assessment for my class. So now I want to start digitizing. So I can click on edit at the top here, and I'm going to say create. In here, I have all of my different features, and I can put in each of them. So if I click on bench, for example, that is going to be a point, and now I need to find any benches that might be available here. So I'm not going to get a great view, but I think that's a bench. That one looks like a bench too. Maybe it's a picnic table, but I can refer to picnic tables as benches. Maybe, oh, look, there may be something over here. There's 3 of them. There's some stuff over here, right? So all I'm doing is I'm using the left mouse on my, or the left button on my mouse to be able to set that point. Once I've done those, I'm going to go up to the top here and I'm going to click save. Save edits, yes. Then I can do buildings. So I can click on building, and I'm going to make sure it's a polygon. And then I'm going to draw around the building. Now, if you are doing this for real and you're actually getting paid to do this, you want to make sure that you are using the footprint of the building, not the rooftop, because of the radial displacement that happens. But if you are in my class, you don't have a choice because we don't have ortho imagery. So you would just go around using your left mouse button and find the corners of the building and try to create the building as best as you can. So if it's something like this, I would go to each of the corners and I would click around, trying to capture the shape of the building without overdoing it. So again, it's just an exercise for my class, but that gives you an idea. Now the pathways, I'm going to click on pathways. Got lots of pathways here. So I am going to click along. Again, I select them and I can see that it's becoming a line. And maybe I'm just going to end it here and I double click. So in order to end anything, you double click it and that will allow you to finish your line or your polygon. So there's just a couple lines in here, just like so. Then if I have trees, it's the same idea. I'm going to zoom in and try to find my trees. So then, again, trying to hit it at the base of the tree. And I'm going to have a couple different kinds of trees in here. So this is going to be really, really rough. So those of you who are just like looking for an introduction to this is what I am showing is very much an introduction. So that once you've gone through and you've digitized your whole area, you can see it here. Now, if I turn off the world imagery, I can see what I've done. So if you are in my class, you will definitely have several features in each of them to use. Then what I want you to do is go up to the top, click Save. Make sure you always save your work. When it grays out, then you know you're good. And I want you to click Clear. So go over to Selection and click Clear. That will, every time you clear everything, that makes things so much nicer on your map. Now, the next thing that you want to do is to actually enter in your and enter in the attribute values. So I'm going to start with trees because that's going to be the easiest one that for me to start with. I'm going to go to Contents. I'm going to right click on Trees. I'm going to click on Attribute Table. And I can see the tree type shows up. Now, one of the things that you might be like, oh, well, how do I know which one's which? So if I click on the one here, you're going to see that it highlights the point. So then I can zoom in and be like, oh, okay, I know what kind of tree that is. So then I can type, oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't set the domains. I'm like, oh, there's nothing there. So I'm not going to type that yet. Enter. It's still going to be null. What I want to do now is I'm like, oh, great. I need to actually fix this so that it connects to the domains. So if you highlight the entire column and you right click on it and you go to Fields down here, click on Fields. It might be in a different order depending on what version of the software you're in. And I can see my feature, or my field of my feature. And then there's this domain option. So if I double click it, it gives me two different versions, which are the ones that I set up. So I can click on tree type, and then I'm going to go up to the top here and hit save. So it should be under fields. If you don't see save here, then there will be a save button somewhere. If there's no star, then you're good. It will automatically save. So now if I go in here, now you can see that I can choose which one it is. So then I choose the next one. I can see it's that. I know that's a flat leaf version as well. I can also do it another way. If I wanted to select anything, I can click select up top and I want to see maybe this one. So I can right click, go to my attribute table, and I can see which one that is. And now I can say, okay, that's a speculate, right? So you're going to fill in this tree type using that. Then you're going to hit save. Even if you close that attribute table, it's still held until I click save because I haven't actually quit anything. Then I can do pathways the same way. So I can right click on that. I can go to attribute table and it asks me for the material. I have not set them up yet, right? Because it's still is empty. So I can right click on material. I can go to my fields and now I'm going to change my domain to materials. Then I can go up here. I find where it says save and then close. And then now when I go into material, I can say what they are. You're going to see though that what happens when you use a really long line, so if I click on this one, you can see that I did it all in one. That entire thing is going to be just one polyline. So if you're trying to segment it out into little pieces, then you're going to have to end each line into its own little piece. So then feature layer should be good there, so that we're good. Then I can do benches, which is the other version. So we saw the drop-down version. Now we're going to look at using numbers. So I highlight, I right-click, I say fields. And I can go to domain, and I'm going to add capacity because it should show up as long as the data type is good. Now notice this, it says the save button is currently disabled due to unsaved edits. So it means that I've edited something, which I did because I changed the fields at one point. So what I want to do is I want to save those edits. And then you'll see that the save button shows up. So I hit save and it'll apply that save to it. And then now when I double click, you're going to see that there's no drop down list. And the reason for that is because the capacity is it will limit it to what I am allowed to do. So for example, if I say I have a capacity of 3 people, I have no problem. Now, if I go in here and I say I have 3 people, it's going to tell me null. It will never fill it in because it's the wrong kind of characters. Even if I say I want 4.5 people, it's still going to tell me null because 4.5 is a double or a float. It is not an integer. So I set this as an integer, so I have to stick with that. Now, if I say 0, it's going to use the minimum value and it's going to set it to that. So if you accidentally press 0, suddenly the minimum is filled in. The same goes with the maximum. So maybe I put 10 by accident. You're going to see that the maximum goes to 6 because that's how I set up my capacity in the domain. So if you're looking at doing that and limiting it, when you're filling this out, you have to remember what it is. This is where a data dictionary is really helpful. So keep making sure that you're sticking within that. You can put in 4 and you can do anything from 1 to 6 as long as it's no decimals. So then I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to click save. It's going to say save all edits, so it'll save what's in there. So that is how you create features and fill in the attributes. I can see that's still blue there, so I'm going to go up to here to edit and clear. Then it gets rid of that, so that's nice. So that's all I want to cover in this particular video. And just make sure that you save your project up the top here. So when you click save, it will save everything and it will show up exactly as you see it now.